Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Game Pass Grab Bag, your weekly podcast reviewing games. The Game Pass collection, bringing you three new perspectives of varying skill range. I am the administrator of this episode, Andrew. With me, our replicant, Keith.
Hello.
And the one who could never remember anything, Liz.
Hey, guys.
And this week, I picked the game. I saw a lot of people talk about this, and I was like, you know what, guys? I want to check out Signalis, because I've seen a lot of people talking about it.
I picked it. Not to interrupt, but I was like, oh, remember that horror game you were talking about?
I brought it up, but then you were like, you said about a horror game, and I was like, all right, let's do Signalis.
You can have it.
I first brought it up, but yes, I guess you confirmed that you wanted to play it as well. But Signalis is brought to you by Rose Engine. Signalis is a retro-style horror survival game. We are playing a replicant, which is honestly, I guess, essentially an android. You are a robot, but also have biological parts. And you are trying to find a girl on a photo that you have. You don't remember much of your memories. You don't really know what's going on. But you are trying to find this girl that you have a photo of. And of course, you're in a facility overrun by horrors. And so you are trying to survive and see if you can find the girl in the photo. But going around, Liz, was this a game or pass for you?
I don't even know who started this, the personal pass thing. If it was me or Keith. I'm pretty
sure it was Keith, because Keith does a lot of passes.
Personal pass. This is the type of game that I like to watch people play. I remember watching my brother play the original Resident Evil, and I really enjoyed it. And I had to do a walkthrough a couple times because I was lazy and didn't want to do the puzzles. I feel like anyone who's been listening for a long time knows I'm not good with puzzles, unless it's jigsaw puzzles. But so for me, gameplay wise, it just wasn't for me. And but overall, I think the game is enjoyable, but I just wish I didn't have to play. I wish I was just watching it. And I also pointed out to Andrew recently, he's been playing a lot of I immediately think bodybuilders, but builder games. I was like, what type of game?
I'm playing a lot of bodybuilder games.
I was like, what is Andrew been playing lately? I immediately think bodybuilders. No, builder games. And they're not as fun for me to watch. I know some people dig them. I like to play them, but I don't like to watch them. You've been playing a lot of builder games. And I'm not about that.
What are builder games?
If you played this...
What are builder games?
Or management games.
Okay.
Or in general,
you can just say I've been playing a lot of Age of Empires. I'm still playing Age of Empires.
Well, that, but also I remember when you watched Evil Genius, you were playing Evil Genius 2, and I was like, that looks so boring. I played it and I loved it. But watching you play it, I was just like, this is too boring. I'm like, can you play some Apex, please? So this is a very long-winded way of me saying that it's a personal pass.
That you more enjoy playing it or watching it than you do playing it.
Oh, yeah. I would definitely watch someone play this game. Okay. So it's not saying this is a bad game. It's gameplay-wise, it's not for me.
Okay. Keith?
So I've gone back and forth. I think overall I do think I give it a game, but because I wanted to play more of it, and I found myself wanting to, but there's not a lot about it that I particularly liked or enjoyed. There's nothing specific that I'm like, oh, that was the part I really thought was the best. That's the part I like. No, there really isn't anything, but there's also nothing that I really disliked. It's just, I don't know. It was fine. So I think it's a game.
So, I'm the same way with you, Keith. I've noticed a lot of people who love this game really, really, really love this game. I grew up, obviously, with the retro-style horror games. I should explain what that means. If anyone's played the original old-school Resident Evil, Silent Hill, this game takes a lot of inspirations from those. This game is very psychological, but it has a fixed camera. So you're just you can barely see around corners and stuff. So it's a lot of you're hearing noises and there's some creatures around the corner, but you can't quite see them because it's a top-down view that's a fixed camera is kind of the style. And then you got to ready your gun in order to shoot, old school Resident Evil. So I grew up playing those, and I remember Resident Evil 2 when I was a kid terrified me. I legitimately could only play for 30 minutes and I would have to stop because I was so freaked out that I would have to stop. I don't really know if I'd call this game a horror game because I did not find anything scary about it. But I am giving it a game because it's very psychological, and I enjoyed the aesthetic of the game, and I liked what it was doing. particularly, well, you said you don't know anything you like, Keith. I know for me, I really like the puzzles. I thought the puzzles were very cool in this game. So for me, I thought that was a big highlight. But yeah, I'll give it a game. I enjoyed Signalis. But getting to the story, as I said a little bit, you are this replicant, which is kind of like an android that is on a ship with another pilot. You crash land on a mysterious planet, and you kind of go through these weird segments of you don't really know what's going on. You just know you're trying to find this girl in a photo that you have. You don't remember much of your memories. You know that you're trying to keep this promise, and you're trying to find this person, and you find this facility overrun with horrors, and you're trying to figure out, what is going on here. The story, I'm going to say, is my first complaint. I know a lot of people love it because this is a game where it's, like I said, it's a horror game with a lot of psychological interpretations and stuff like that. So if you're looking for kind of a thinking horror game, this is going to be right up your alley. But this is my first complaint with the horror aspect of Signalis. For me, I didn't feel like I was scared because I don't know what's going on for the longest time. Like, I don't even know, like, I couldn't quite figure out what I am. Like, people are like, oh, you're a replicant. And it's like, what does that mean? I don't know what this is, like, anything is going on.
Well, I do like that they do tell you what different, like, the word models comes to mind, like models of, like, whatever it is that you are.
Yeah.
Like, what they're like, personality.
But that's, like, halfway through the
game. What calms them. Yeah. But you're finding those, which is helpful and very interesting. And, I feel like I knew, like, pretty early, like, that you were in, so I understood that.
Spoiler.
I mean, like, mid-range, like, so when the first time that, like, you get, it's like halfway through the game.
Spoiler again,
but, like, is it really a spoiler?
A little bit, but that's fine.
But pretty early on that
early-ish.
Well, middle of the game. Wait, you can erase all this.
I think middle of the game's pretty far in for the product.
But in all fairness, there's a walkthrough, though, that was 4 hours. Like, this can be a very short game for some. And I think that with, like, the amount of enemies that are in later on, that, like, the early part of the game is very quick. So...
Well, I mean, true. But I will say, and, like, not even... like, I don't know, in an argumentative way. I'm not trying to start the episode out on that, but, like, people will speedrun anything. Like, what is that new one that came out? Children of the Forest, I think. Someone's already beat it in under 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that like Children of the Corn? Like,
no, it's Son of the Forest. And it's a sequel to The Forest.
But anyways, yeah, like, I don't know. People will always beat games quickly, so I tend to not put a lot of stock in, like, oh, someone beat it in 4 hours. I think I'm somewhere around 7 hours, and I think I'm about halfway through the game.
I'd say you're actually farther. I saw your achievements, and I kind of know where you are in the game, and yeah, you're actually pretty close to the end.
Oh, okay. And that would feel like it lines up because and I think this is part of where I was starting to lean away from it a little bit, where I was like, I felt like I was going nowhere by doing a lot. I don't know. All in all, though, I think the story's fine. Like, I actually was sort of trying to piece together, and I kind of like when a game wants me to figure it out more than just talks at me a lot. But yeah, there was nothing really engaging at the same time to be like, wow, this seems super interesting. Because I don't know, I thought I understood that my ship crashed or something, and that every ship had these two different people on it, and you were one of them, and you were looking for the other person. Like, that's who I thought you were looking for in that picture. But I don't know, maybe I was wrong.
No, I mean, I got that, like, that part, but like I said, I couldn't quite figure out what a replicant is, because like I said, you're an android essentially. Because yeah, you have cybernetics, but it does sound like you have some biological parts, like you still bleed. But
and you don't have real feet, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, you got some peg legs. I love that design. I thought that was actually, I like the fact that your character has like peg legs. But
weird.
I just thought it was like, the game just, felt like threw you in so quickly that I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. So like in a game, like I said, with like when I played Resident Evil when I was a kid, that more terrified me because like I know what's going on. There's zombies around. They're trying to kill me and it's killing people. But in this game, I'm like, what are these things? Like, Are they human? Am I human?
They just called them horrors, right?
I think.
Or something
Well,
along those lines.
they actually kind of tell you what some are. So there are some that come up like through the floor, and around that time, I had read about ones that kind of, when they're not doing well, they bunker down like underneath kind of thing, or like in walls or something.
Oh, yeah.
So like
I didn't
there's
think about that.
a certain room that I'm like, I know what this is. I mean, now that we're talking, I don't remember the name of it. But they do kind of indicate what's what, or like some people are really bad at combat, but they're good with like, elemental things. But I'm also really curious, Keith, like, what did you think of the cutscenes? Do you think that they gave like a good amount of information, or do you think that they need more?
I think they fit what they were trying to do in the game. Personally, I would have liked maybe just a hair more, so I had some better understanding of what was going on.
Yeah.
And kind of like Andrew was saying, maybe some of the lore, a little bit of what things were. But otherwise, I think they fit well with the aesthetic of the game and the storytelling of the game.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there, Keith. I wish there was more, because I will say that was the moment I felt like I was the most creeped out, was the cutscenes, because they're usually relatively graphic. Like, it's usually kind of, it's like disturbing images, and like that usually would make me go, oh, what the heck just happened there? And I liked those. I wish there was more of them.
Something I wanted to bring up. So earlier, and Andrew, you can bleep like the key words about like the spoilers.
All your spoilers that you're about to reveal?
But,
Yes, I can.
No, but the middle of the game, I feel like that is when you're getting to like a lot of the back and forth of the game, where you're like going between like four different levels, 5 different levels, and it's a lot of back and forth. So I felt like what I was saying earlier, that was kind of a spoiler. I felt like early on in the game, because it took me so long to figure out like where I was going. There's so many floors, you're going back and forth, and trying to remember rooms. Some rooms have like, it'll tell you like there's like a certain thing in that room, but a lot of the rooms don't tell you. So
you're talking about the map.
Yes, in the map. So like some rooms, like it tells you like what's there. Like for instance, like the island painting room, but a lot of rooms don't have anything written or indicators unless it's like a save point. And so for me, I found it the hardest part I felt like was the middle of it, and it took so long for me. That's why I felt like the beginning, if that makes sense.
Kind of. I think somewhere right around where I hit that, I figured out that it was just kind of a linear puzzle, and this was sort of where I started to get a little bit, I don't know, bored with the gameplay. I think too, and is that it was like, okay, I can see that there's these 4 puzzles, and hey, I just kind of have to figure out what order to do them in, and so it didn't feel like they were that interesting. And while I agree with you, Andrew, they were pretty unique in each of themselves. I didn't think any of them were really all that difficult. And again, kind of the same thing. I just would almost sometimes, like there was 1 or 2 of them, I think I accidentally found my way to the answer because I was just like kind of messing around trying to figure it out. And I went, oh, okay, there it is. And like I just kind of solved them.
I don't think they were too difficult that like I had to look them up, but they definitely made me pause and think, is why I like them. And I think that's a very nice balance for a puzzle. Because I don't like to play a game where I'm like, I just got to look up the solution. This is so obscure. This is stupid. I don't like it. But like, it definitely made me think. So none of them were like so hard that I'm like, this makes no sense. But I liked where it's like, okay, I see what it's trying to do. And majority of the puzzles too gave you the pieces right in front of you. They weren't like, hey, you got to go like 10 rooms back, look at that picture, try to memorize it and come back here.
I disagree with that.
There's a couple that did, but not too many.
I feel like there was especially, I think it was like floors 5 through, was it 8? I think there was a lot of back and forth. And also like, I think they also try to make it more difficult when like, I feel like we just figured something out and then the enemies would respawn. And I think it was like halfway through my gameplay that Andrew was like, oh, you can switch between difficulties, and I switched to easy. But enemies still respawn. So I feel like just when I got like the key to figuring out what it was that I was doing, the enemies would respawn. So for me, it's just like there was that. I mean, I guess like some people would see it as a challenge, but I just feel like I'd have to go through all these floors. Like level 5, they said you need a flashlight, but it's in the administrators, whatever, which is level 8, and you'd have to like kind of work your way because also like there are some gates that don't work, so you'd have to go like through the entire floor and then open that to get to level 8. So for me, it's just like I feel like there was a lot of back and forth.
Oh no. Well, let me clarify. I agree. There's a lot of back and forth with this game. It's just when it came to the puzzles. Usually, when you're at a puzzle, it has this like you have your pieces in front of you. But no, I fully agree. There's way too much back and forth in this game, and I felt like they added it just to add time to the game.
That's why I think it's not linear. Like it's not like you're in floor 5 and then floor 6 is where you need to go. It's like no, it's 5, then 8, then 5, then 6, then 5. I mean, this is just an example, but like I felt like I was going between the floors so much, and then also like some gates didn't work, so you'd have to go through the entire floor to get to the gate that did work to get to the next one.
Well, so you make a good point, and linear is probably not the right wording for it, but I think more, I guess what I'm saying is my strategy was just, I don't know, run, check every door, check every room. If I didn't have the solution when I got to that room, oh well, I'll come back to it. I wasn't even, and kind of like what Andrew was saying, if I walked into a room and there wasn't immediately something in that room that was going to help me figure it out, just carried on with my life. But you brought up another interesting point, and really, I think it's weird because it's one of the things that I think makes Signalis good in a way, because it's a word we always talk about, is I think for a survival horror game, and I very much agree with you, Andrew, that it's really not very horror based, but really more psychological survival.
Yeah.
It's a very accessible survival game. I think if you're not typically inclined to play these because you're a little bit concerned with playing a survival game, it's actually fairly forgiving, aside from the saves. But it tells you have to save often. And so that's one of the things that I think I liked about it. But honestly, even the combat, I just got to a point where, I had 2 points. One is that I struggled with going back and forth because I was always out of bag space.
Yes.
Which is the survival aspect. So I kind of just let it go and not complain about it. But it was the one thing I was always up against. And then beyond that, combat kind of stunk. I just ignored it.
Yeah.
But you're talking
I just
about
ran past everything is all I did.
You're talking about accessibility, though. And for me, I feel like the bag space makes it completely inaccessible. Because it's the type of game where, like, when it comes to bag space, it's also talking about key cards. So not only are you running across different suits, like, it tells you, like, oh, this is, like, a worker suit or whatever. So you have the ability to, like, craft something. Like, if I was in her situation, I need to carry stuff, that suit would become a bag. Like, and also, I mean, you can fit, like, those keys in a bra, in a top, as a woman, and
just a general wallet. Just carry a
it's
wallet.
completely wrong. And so for me, like that's why I got frustrated. Where it's just like keys, key cards, everything was one space, and you got like 6, right?
Yeah,
that's BS. I feel like, don't get me wrong. Like I understand, like some games, it's like you can carry everything, including the kitchen sink. But like this, it's just like it's a gun and key cards. And you're like, oh, you can't carry that. BS. I can carry like put something on my back.
I hold the key card in my mouth. Come on here.
So that's why I don't think it's accessible, because I spent so much time going back to the chest to put stuff away that I would need, like the eternity symbol thing that you get, like that stone. You don't need that forever.
The photo,
and so
the photo takes up the space. Get rid of that photo right away.
That's the thing. Like the game doesn't tell you what you need.
Right away.
But like also the save spaces are pretty far between. Like if you look at the part that I'm talking about, like between 5 and 8, it's annoying to get to because the enemies respawn. It's not like you can like save and like find chests everywhere. So that's why like I think as like a noob, I'm just like, this is outrageous. So like I hated it, and I understand like it's a survival game, but make it realistic. You know what I mean? Like you can have pockets. You know what I mean? Like you can put a key card on your person somewhere in your shoe. You know, if
she doesn't have feet. She has peg legs.
Those are pretty big key cards.
She has boobs. She has.
Did you
boobs.
see how big those key cards were? They were large.
Keys, like there's so many things that I was just like, this is not. And the same with like ammo. Like you can't craft like a little pouch from that work suit that you found, it gets me a little riled up, I'll tell you.
I just didn't think, I don't know, at most you were ever maybe more than like 6 rooms away from a storage place.
No, you're a couple floors sometimes. Because like I said, like when it comes to like the 5 through 8, I think there's one like before you get to 5, and there's one floor that actually has one. But if you're trying to like there are sometimes you have to go through like 5 or 6 rooms on a single floor to get to where you need, and then you have to actually go to another floor and go through 5 or 6 rooms. I think that like gameplay wise, it's inaccurate. Like I can give me ammo, I'll hold whatever I need. Like so, I just think that like when it comes to like actual reality, like that doesn't work. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't think your equipped weapons should have taken up space. But I don't know. I'm not going to tell you that I think you're wrong. I just don't fully agree is really the big thing. But I can absolutely see where you're coming from at the same time, because it's one of those things that I learned the maps very well without needing to look at it, because I just ran back and forth so frequently. But at the same time, it didn't bother me as much, at least.
I'm
but
jealous.
I do know I did a lot of running back. I did a lot of running around. I'm not going to say I didn't.
I am not good at maps, though. This is the thing. Andrew, he, like, when we first moved to the city that we're in, he knew right away where everything was. I am not good with maps. So, like, I'm very jealous of the two of you, because this is the type of game where, like, you have to remember where things are. And I also, like, I want to point out, too, when I'm complaining about bag space, I love to loot. I'm finding all this ammo that I can't pick up. These auto injectors. And when I was playing on, like, the normal difficulty, I definitely needed things more. And when I switched to easy, it really was a lot easier, where it's just like I really don't need like like that. I have like one repair thing, and then I could just use it up. But that's the thing too, like if your health is max, you cannot use a repair thing, and you cannot get rid of it. So you have to get rid of something like ammo.
I think you can still use it.
It would not let me. It would not let me
annoying.
use a repair kit, because I specifically remember this, but I was trying to use a repair kit because I need to use up inventory. And I usually, like, I'm, like, caution. Like, I wasn't doing well. It would not let me. I had to get rid of my ammo. So for me, it's also like, why can't you, if your inventory is so selective, you should be able to drop things. And that's another thing that I think, like, that should be available in the game.
100% agree. I hated not being able to drop things.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm 100% with you, Liz. My biggest
Or
complaint
destroy.
is this bag space. You can carry 6 things. And so normally, being a survival horror, you got to carry a gun. And then obviously, you got to carry ammo for that gun. So right away, that's 2 of your bag spaces right there. A key card. It's apparently the same size as your gun. Yeah, it takes up a space. But no, I fully agree with you, Liz. It irritated me because this game also, you have an equipped gun, but you also have like a tool space. So you have some gadgets of like a stun rod, a thermite, flashlight, auto injector. Like there's these things that like kind of take a tool slot. Because like I said, being a retro survival, you got to ready up your weapon in order to shoot it. So you got to make sure your weapon's equipped. But even though it's equipped, it's still taking up that bag space. So my chest was full of these tools, but I never wanted to take them because I have such limited bag space. If this game just let you equip a gun and a tool and not have it take bag space, because one of the tools is a flashlight, which is mandatory. There's a lot of rooms you got to go to that are dark, and your character will not interact with anything in that room because it's too dark.
And you can tape it. Like, you find tape. You can tape a flashlight to a gun.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at, agents.
The thing is mounted to your shoulder. And it still takes up a space.
And I also think that we should talk about speed versus storage. So, like, your speed throughout the game, no matter what you're carrying, is what is encumbered in other games. And so, for me, that doesn't make any sense at all. Because I can tell you...
I'm going to spend like 20 minutes complaining about this backspace.
But I can think of so many ways when I was walking around. I can make storage with that. I can make storage with that. There's so many things that you stumble across. I could put it up my butt or something, or like shove it in my bra. But you know what? Like for me, like if you can't run, like you should be able to carry a lot more. Is what I'm saying. Like, if you're not bulky, why can't you have speed or storage? I tell you, it was like the main thing that made me irritated with the game, where you're like the back and forth, like we were saying earlier. It's not just with like remembering what door has like what key kind of thing. Because like, for instance, they have like eagle key, hummingbird key. They're not all labeled on the map. You have to remember that. But you also have to remember like, what do I need right now with like the keys and stuff, and like versus storage. I tell you, it got me really irritated. I mean, I feel like you can tell by my tone of voice.
No, I have no idea. No idea how you feel about it, Liz. I don't know. It didn't bother me that much.
The one thing I will say I liked, though, that the game does well, when you use a key card for a door, like you said, like the hummingbird door, and you use the hummingbird key card, it just deletes that item. So that yes. I at least like. That it's not like, oh, you got to hold on this key card, even though it doesn't.
But considering you can't destroy certain items, I mean, they should.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really give the game props for that. not to be rude, but like, I mean that you should give
me
something.
Not trying to be rude here. But I do fully agree, though. Like, the limited bag space to me was designed to be a nuisance to add gameplay time, because just about every kind of level you're going to, there is a main door you're trying to unlock, and it usually requires about 6 key cards. So that would be 6 bag spaces. So the way it's designed, it's like it expects you to kind of make multiple runs to your storage chest, grab a couple, go back to that door, insert those key cards, go back to your storage chest, grab more key cards, go back to that door. It was just unnecessary padding to gameplay time that I felt like was happening.
And also like Resident Evil, this is so long ago with the original Resident Evil. But I mean, you're dealing with zombies. You're dealing with something that's happening right now, and you can't think on your feet. It makes sense that you wouldn't have a lot of bag space. You know what I mean? This is the type of situation where like some rooms have monsters, some don't. Like, so for me, that's why like I didn't feel that sense of urgency with this game. Like I said, Resident Evil was a long time ago, but it just like I felt like it was a weird pace with like, you know, there are some rooms where like multiple whatever they are would pop through, and others there was nothing. So I felt like it was, I mean, I guess it's good to not know what's coming, but I also felt like the pace was weird.
Well, it's funny you say that, because that's exactly where there's nothing scary to me about this game. I always knew what was coming in every single room that happened, aside from the first time I walked into it.
Because you go back, yeah.
Yeah, every room is the same. Occasionally, a new monster might get added into the room. You might forget how many of them pop up from the floors, but it's always the same.
Well, some would disappear, too, which is like, it was just like, there were sometimes I went into a room and a zombie would wake up. Or I say zombie, but whatever it is would wake up. Sorry. I would leave the room because it was right next to me. I went back in. It was completely gone. Like the old corpse was gone. It was gone. And I was like, does it go to another room? That happened.
Like a glitch.
Well, it happened so many times. I feel like it can't be a glitch. It happened like more than 5 times for me, especially in like the main hallway on one of the floors.
On easy or hard or medium?
Medium. Because this was like in like the 5 to 8.
Weird,
like
because
when
I
you're doing
never
those
remember
levels.
that happening.
Oh.
But yeah, it just, I don't know. I there was nothing scary about it at any point when you kind of always know what's around every corner.
Yeah. But quick, I guess, tips if you are picking up this game. Right at the beginning, you know, when you're at the main menu, to the way right, there's a manual. Highly recommend you read that. I did not read that. I didn't like click on it until later. And it actually kind of gives you some nice tips about like combat, you know, how you heal, stuff like that. It's a really simple read. Highly recommend you read the manual because I did not. And and after reading, I was like, oh, that actually would have been helpful. But another tip, as Liz said, the game, when you start a game, it doesn't say what difficulty you want to play. You got to go to, you know, pause the game, go to options, and at the very bottom of gameplay, it says like combat difficulty is where you can adjust the difficulty.
In all fairness, that was me because I actually looked through and I didn't spot it. I clearly wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, I noticed it later and I told you about it.
But the manual I found right away and actually really did help me. Some things I figured out on my own because I actually like looked a little bit after I started playing, but yeah.
See, the first time I booted it up, it went through a whole calibration thing and it asked me about the difficulty.
Oh, I don't remember that. I remember going.
It asked me like brightness, everything. Had me.
I did brightness, but I don't remember it saying anything about difficulty.
It didn't do that for me.
There was like 3 pages it went through. One of them had the difficulty on there.
Oh, so did you play on normal or easy?
Yeah, I played on normal.
Okay.
I usually go for normal, but with this game, I just wanted to more know the story because I found the gameplay a little. I was also hoping that it would give me more bag space if I was on easy, and it didn't.
No, it's just effects combat.
Yeah. But then I just kept it on easy because I was lazy.
But real quick though with the story though, so this game has 4 endings. Did you guys see how you unlock the different endings?
No, because I didn't even get to one of the endings.
I did not. So, like I said, we do put. No, I didn't say that this episode. I don't know why I said like I said. But we put a certain amount of time into this game, and I went past what we usually do for the games, but I did not reach the end. But I had a sense that it was going to be a depressing ending, and so I didn't really push myself. And I also I don't know if it's the last area, but the area is there was a lot more enemies. It was a lot more like sneaking, and once they spot you, they will try to find you. So it was just it was really annoying. So I didn't push myself to see the ending and then I asked Andrew what happens at the different endings. So for me, I was just I'm glad I didn't play.
Well, what I like about the endings for this game, as I said, there's 4. 3 of them, how you get the different endings is determined on how you play the game, which I think is really cool. So we mentioned before that there's speedrunners, and you actually get the worst ending if you speedrun. Your ending depends on how you play the game. You know, how much time you took, how much damage you dealt, and how much enemies you killed is what determines what ending you get. The 4th ending is a secret ending. That one you actually have to do a hidden puzzle to kind of get that hidden ending. But I like this idea of 3 different endings of how you play the game, because almost every game, the ending just changes on the very last choice of the game. So it's just I'll just reload my save and pick the other one and see what the ending is. But this game is very much just how you played it is, how it goes.
But wouldn't speedrunners do the least amount of damage?
Exactly. So speedrunners get the worst ending.
Yeah, but I feel that you're doing the least amount of damage, though.
Yeah.
Least amount of killing. So I feel with most games, if you kill less, you get more. So it's weird that that's the opposite, where it's no, here's a crappy ending.
I know, it's kind of weird that they're punishing speedrunners. The speedrunners getting the ending is called, I think, Leave. I got the in between one, so because I ended up like Keith, just avoiding a lot of enemies. I just ran right past them. So the one I got was Memory, or I thought it was originally called Amnesia. And then the 3rd one, which a lot of people consider to be the best ending, is when you actually take the most amount of time, kill the most amount of enemies. And that one's, I think, called Promise.
Well, what I also think is interesting, too, so there was one point, I wasn't sure if it would change the story. So there was a boss, and if you don't do well, all of a sudden the character, the girl that's in there passes out. But I also read that she can shoot the bad guy, stuff like that. So it was I wasn't sure if that would determine a later outcome. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The
2nd boss.
So that doesn't.
The Caged Amalgamation.
Yeah, that doesn't.
No.
Oh, so I thought that I was changing the game, but I thought it was interesting. That boss.
Wait, with that boss, you killed it?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say, the girl had to do it.
No, she passed out. I guess maybe I did kill it.
What?
I don't know.
I think she shoots it and knocks herself out.
Yeah, and kills the thing. That didn't happen in your game?
Oh, did she knock herself out? Nothing came up that she shot the guy.
Oh, yeah, nothing comes up. It's just that's what she does. She shoots it.
I just know that she passes out.
Okay.
But I didn't see. Oh, so
you
that's
just
what
weren't paying
happened?
attention. Yeah.
Well, she mentions
It's not that I wasn't
didn't-
paying attention. It doesn't show her there's no cutscene of her shooting the guy. It wasn't me not paying attention. It was
There's
just the game didn't show it.
I thought there was a gunshot, but where I caught it was when you talked to her after, and she said something about the recoil.
I didn't get any dialogue.
Oh.
I got 0 dialogue
You didn't wake her up?
She was at that point. She wasn't woken up.
Yeah, you have to physically find an item and wake her up. That's an achievement that's missable, but for me it's glitched.
So I did not. I thought what was interesting though is that the first boss, I think I was playing on easy, super easy to kill. But this boss I had to kill him not kill him, but I had to shoot him the same way that was in the gameplay.
Yeah.
So the boss, killing the first boss is very easy on easy. If the first time he goes down, you shoot him, done. But this one, it's I guess it's the same with medium because the guy was playing on medium.
But speaking of which, though, what did you guys think of the boss fights?
I think I only did maybe 3 of them because I did the cage thing.
So you did. There's 3, and so you did 2.
What was the third one?
I think I got to the third one because I got to a big baddie there was like no ammo in there though, and I did not come prepared for a fight.
Big baddie? Where?
I don't know. I like jumped down a hole, and there was like, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a boss, but I got smoked by something.
As far as I can remember, I think there's only 3. There's one where you fight the miner.
Yeah.
And then there's the cage amalgamation, and at the very end you fight. Then there's a final boss. That's very obvious that it's a final boss.
Wait, so which one do you like jump down like the monster's mouth, or is that not even a boss?
That's
fight?
the one you did, the caged amalgamation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the second boss. I gotta say, I didn't care for the boss fights because for me the combat is so stiff that a boss fight doesn't work. It just, I don't know. To me, they weren't fun. They were just okay at best.
Well, that's why I kind of felt like when I stopped playing the game, at that point, there were a lot more enemies, and I had the ammo. When you're playing on easy, I feel like you get more ammo. And so there was that, but also like the sneaking and stuff, it just wasn't fun. The combat for me was not fun at all. And when it increased, that's when I was like, well, I put more of the amount of time that I have to. And that's when I kind of was just like, I'm not interested anymore.
The combat overall, I think, is fine. I think it works well with the game. I just don't think it works well with bosses. I'm I'm with Keith when Keith said earlier, like he did a lot of sneaking. Like you can sneak by the enemies, just slowly walk. They'll just kind of maybe ignore you if you just go behind them.
But unless they spot you, if they spot you, they will wait for you outside the door. So I actually waited a while, and I went to another door. They waited for me. So
yeah,
I guess,
if you leave a room and go right back in, they're right there.
No. What I'm saying is, I went to another room, and they were still like in that spot.
Yeah.
They would not leave that spot. So no, I'm talking like, instead of going through the door that would bring me to them, I went to another area, like the door the closest.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how long you wait. Once they spot you, they will stay there and wait for you. So for me, it's like sneaking isn't really. I feel like that's kind of unfair. They're supposed to be like monsters that aren't really like, they're not like people that are thinking, right?
Like I know I wasn't playing probably with the best strategy, but even I found, if they were right at the door, you kind of just run in, take one hit, and then sprint past them because you have 1-2 seconds or so of invincibility, and then that actually pulls them back away from the door. And then,
but what if there's 4 though?
Same thing. You'll get hit once, and then you run. But
I'm with you, Keith. I had the same thing where I would run, maybe take one hit, and I could just go through the door.
Yeah, for the most part. And then there was a lot of them where I they were kind of always in the same place, and so I just kind of knew how to I just zigzag through that this one hallway, or I don't know, different things like that. That it's just, the fighting wasn't overly easy, but the staying alive part wasn't overly difficult, I found.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys. I had 1,000 health packs by the end of this game.
Yeah, I had some in storage. No, that's very true.
I probably would have had more, but I would just get hit and be like, oh, I'll just use them. But I also, it was probably in the manual. I didn't realize that you could stomp on the monsters.
Yep,
so
that's
I was
manual.
wasting so much ammo, blasting them with my gun on the ground, and that was when I stopped fighting them in the first place. I was like, well, I don't have any ammo. I'll just run past them. And then I happened to do it by mistake one time, and then by golly, I went, oh, okay.
I can't believe you were wasting ammo on downed enemies.
In all fairness, so it comes up that finish the enemy without ammo, but it doesn't tell you what button to press. It does not tell you. And so I mashed buttons and none would work. I guess the only button I didn't press was A. And so I went to the manual and I was like, oh, it's A. So after that, I knew. The first guy that I killed, I looked it up because I was like, this doesn't seem right. I went to the manual. But why don't they tell you it's A? I'm with Keith. They should have told you.
I think the fact that this game's on all the consoles, Switch, PlayStation, PC, that it's just kind of a thing of just being like, oh yeah, use the interact button. It's usually kind of what a game does. But that's the thing is like I remember with the very first time you're about to enter combat, I picked up a manual, like a lore piece of paper on the ground that said that, like, oh, if an enemy's down on the ground, like, don't waste your ammo, just like knock it out or something like that. And so I'm the same way with you, Liz, where I read that. So when I got into combat and I saw the enemy squirming, I was like, I got to hit some sort of button. So I went to the enemy and I bashed all the buttons, and then eventually saw that it was A.
Yeah, I think I hit every button but A, to be honest, because I was like, because I was doing them individually, and I was like, something's wrong, and it was me. I was what was wrong. Yeah.
One thing that also kind of irritated me, though, when you were talking about, Keith, about when you get hit, like you can kind of take one hit, you have a few seconds of vulnerability and could like go through a door. I found like the selecting of items to be so inconsistent. Like even if I'm not getting swung at or something like that, there's some holes you can like jump in, but you have to have a prompt that shows you like, oh, now you can press A to like enter this door, jump in this hole, something like that. And I found it very inconsistent. There's a lot of times where I'm not even being chased by an enemy, but I'm like trying to angle my character to specific ways so I could go down the stinking hole. It kind of irritated me. I don't know if any of you guys had that issue.
Yep.
A
Definitely
couple
ran
times.
into that.
But
Okay.
I feel like the majority, though, like if you do it head on, I actually like was making myself go directly in front of the door, even if I had to do a curve.
Yeah.
And it was fine. And I would just mash A, and so it worked. But the first couple of times, yeah, it happened to me. It was frustrating.
Yeah. But a point I really want to bring up. So Keith, you play on a TV, correct?
I've actually been playing on my monitor recently.
All right. So I usually play on a monitor. Liz plays on a TV. Graphic-wise, though, I remember, Liz, you first complained that you've had a hard time figuring out what items were interactable. And, like, at this point, I only played on my monitor. I was like, I don't have that issue. I think it's kind of easy.
So one thing that, like, it's actually online that a lot of people are complaining about, the mailbox. You really have to just, like,
The mailbox?
hug it. With, the post boxes?
Yeah.
Do you know what? Andrew looks confused. Like they're
No, I know
red, like it's a post box.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It was like one of the last puzzles on the Floors
No,
5 through 8.
Sorry, Andrew. Andrew looked confused. He's like, "What are you talking about?" His face.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I know. I was
you
just
need a
trying-
mailbox
just trying to help
key.
Andrew
Oh,
understand
thank
a
you.
little.
Yeah, so like you really have to like hug it sometimes
Yeah.
for it to appear. Because the first time I was trying to figure out how to activate it, it wouldn't work. And then so I went back and I did it again. But there's like a sweet spot, I guess. So yeah, a little bit.
But so Liz, did you find it easier though playing on the TV? Like you could find interactable items easier?
Yeah, it would glow, and for me, like I it's also like one of those things where it's just like some things would like have a twinkle, you
Yeah.
know, a little light, and you'd think it was interactable, but it wasn't. So there were a couple of things I went up to, and I was like, am I not supposed to interact with it? But I feel like I got everything though. I think there were just a couple of things that you couldn't pick up that sparkled. But everything that like you could pick up, I could pick up.
Yeah, I felt like, specifically me playing on a monitor, I know when I played on the TV that you were playing on, I found it a little more difficult. But I do like this game that you enter a room, and I generally could feel like, oh, there's a piece of paper. There's some ammo over there. There looks like some sort of key on that desk. I felt like the items were kind of highlighted in a way that made it easy to spot. Because that was the thing, too, where I'm like, if this is kind of a game where there's a key on a table in a corner, and you just didn't see it, well, you're going to be searching the map for like an hour looking for this one dang key. I luckily did not ever feel like I had a hard time finding objects,
I agree with you.
which is very important. But graphically wise, though, I like the aesthetic that this game's going for. It is a little bit of a pixel art. Specifically, I loved when the game went to first-person mode. There's a couple moments. They're story moments where you actually go in first-person mode. And I actually loved it. I loved those moments.
I mean, I get the vibe that they were going for. I really do. But for me, there are some things that I wish were a little bit more crisp, like the
Are you
lettering.
talking about the GoldenEye moments?
Yeah, that's what I liked.
Yeah, I just feel like there are some things that could have been a bit more clear. Like I said, the lettering and stuff. So for me,
like when text was going on?
like for instance, like when you're looking at the map, like it doesn't have to be blurry.
Yeah.
There were some rooms that like maybe it was a screen I was looking at, like the TV or whatever. But there were some like rooms that just seemed like I was like, what does that even say? I mean, I guess that's being a little bit nitpicky, but I feel like I'm not as into the pixelated stuff. Again, I think it gets kind of a pass because of the type of game that it's going for. But I think there it could have been a bit crisper in some areas. That's what I personally think.
See, I think graphically wise, like what you're complaining about, I think makes sense with this game. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, I don't think technically you're controlling the character. I think technically you are supposed to be an observer. Because if you notice, every room you're going into, there is a video camera following your character.
I noticed that.
So I think it's more kind of supposed to be saying like you're watching this person in this facility. Because also too, if you go to options and under the video, there's a CCTV version, and it actually makes the screen look like it's like slightly bulged, like you're looking at an old style TV.
But isn't it in the 80s?
It was CRT.
Oh, CRT, that's what it was.
But the dates, because there was dates on like the diary and stuff, was it supposed to be the 80s or like 80s in the future? Because for me, it's like I feel like there were.
I don't remember seeing. I remember seeing like months and days, but I don't ever remember seeing a year.
I could have imagined it. I thought it was supposed to be the 80s. I thought it was supposed to be the 80s. I like I said, I could have read something wrong, like whatever. But I mean, I feel like there are a lot of games that I played in the early-ish 90s, mid-90s.
I don't remember seeing a year.
That the lettering was crisp. It's the lettering that's bothering me. I just wanted some crispness with the lettering. Yeah, I'm curious about that. I want to Google it.
I didn't think they gave any indication of the time period that it took place in, because there was no, if I recall either, there was no specific mention of any specific country. It just kept saying like the nation or...
Oh, that's
true.
It's
in space, so I guess there's no country.
Well,
when
true.
You're in space.
I mean, space race countries
I
go
guess.
to space, so I'm just saying.
I think it was me. I think I saw like 80 something and I was like, oh, it takes place in the 80s. It probably wasn't saying it was in the 80s.
But overall, though, like what I enjoyed, though, I loved the overall like kind of color palette of this game. I mean, your main character is black and red. I love just kind of like the atmosphere and the aesthetic that this game is going for, and especially too when you gotta get to the fleshy areas. Like I don't know. I thought that I dug what this game is kind of going for. I just don't think it was really much of a horror. I felt more it was like a psychological, which is very cool. Like you said, Keith, at the beginning, I wish there was more cutscenes. I thought the cutscenes were very creepy, and like that's when it really kind of was getting me into the vibe of this game. But
like when you're moving forward and it's really slow and you're picking up different letters. And
the
stuff.
first person.
Yeah.
Did you like the first person, Liz?
I did, but I just like I did want more. Like I mean I feel like with every game when it comes to cutscenes that are very minimal, like you're trying to like interpret and stuff, I'm like I do want more. I want something like just in my face. This is what this means. Yeah. I don't do like good with
observation.
Well, observation, but like, well, you know what's interesting? Like, if I'm talking to somebody, the way that they speak, the look on their face, I interpret. Like, I can figure out what they're saying, even just by their facial expression versus what they're saying. I'm very good at that. Like, if someone's like saying something but they mean something else, I can pick up on that like right quick.
You and your detective skills.
But when it comes to games, like, I don't want to try to figure things out. Like spell it out like I'm stupid. So for me, like the cutscenes, it's like I did want more, but it just like the laziness of me, you know. 100% it's on me, but
one thing I enjoyed, but I also wanted more of when it comes to the sound design. So the thing that irritated me the most with sound design was combat. Every combat, as soon as an enemy sees you, it does the screech. It's the same combat music over and over again, and it got really irritating. I loved the overall music, but it didn't come to combat. And like that's where I think this game could have done better too. Of like, because I felt like it was trying to go more just a psychological horror. I wanted more eerie sound effects, and I didn't think there was enough.
I agree.
Yeah, it was like the sound effects they used actually were in themselves. If you heard them, you're like, ooh, that's a horror sound effect. They had all of it there. They had all of the tools. It was the repetition that honestly killed it. Yeah. It was that every time I heard the monster that I already saw in the room and I already knew was in the room because I'd been there 10 times already, made that same screeching noise, it wasn't scary anymore. It was just kind of annoying.
Yep.
But if that thing came out of nowhere and it dropped out of the ceiling all of a sudden, or it burst out of a wall, okay, now it's a little bit scary. Maybe there's ones that chase you through rooms. There just wasn't anything to make those sound effects actually work. Or maybe if you heard those sound effects, like to this day, the scariest sound effect in any video game I have ever played is I don't remember, is it the screechers in Left 4 Dead?
The witches.
The witches.
When they're crying?
The sound, yes. Like, in how well they did the proximity to it, where you're, like, rooms away, you can just hear it silently, and it grows louder and louder as you get close to it, and then
when you
accidentally...
see it,
Yeah, or you accidentally turn a corner on it, and just hell breaks loose. That was horror. And it wasn't even really a horror game. But
did I play that or like watch you play it?
Nope.
You played Back 4 Blood, which is similar in nature. It was a cousin to Left 4 Dead, but those were old. But yeah, the tools were all there, and they weren't well utilized, and it was kind of sad to see.
Yeah, I feel like the music started late and ended late for me. Like, whenever I was in combat, so for me, like, it never gave me scary vibes because the music was always playing way after I exited the room. And I just want to say real quick, the reason why I was confused about the dates is because I Googled it. So, like, it's, like, seasons. So, like, Adler's Diary, season 84. So that's why I immediately saw 84, and I was like, oh, 1984. No, it's like they go in cycles.
Yeah.
So I 100% was wrong with that. But it's my own assumptions.
I can see why you thought that. That makes sense, though.
I wanted to ask, though, like, I don't know if I'm remembering it wrong. I think when you paused it to use your inventory, so, like, when it comes to health packs and stuff, like, reloading, like, it told me the reload button, it never worked when I was like in combat, so I would always have to pause and reload. And so it's the same with like, I don't know if there was like a quick thing for medical stuff, like the repair kits. I would always pause it and then use it because my ammo would never reload in the game, and it would actually pause it, like the enemies wouldn't hurt me.
I think you could, I never tried, but I think you could equip the repair sprays and use them. But accidentally you kind of, I don't want to say did the right thing, because it's not, I don't think, how the game is intended to be played, but going into your inventory paused the game and you could reload instantly there. So it was tedious. It wasn't like a good flow to the gameplay, but it was safer. You could reload better that way every time.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, like, because, like I said, the button wouldn't work for me, but I wasn't even sure if there was a way to use, like, repair kits, because I didn't bother, because no matter what, I had to reload in there. But I just thought that was
I cannot believe you paused the menu every time to reload.
I had to reload, yeah, because it wouldn't work in the game. It never worked.
I had no issue hitting right bumper, and it reloaded the gun.
I looked it up. I got it tells you. And so, like, I did it, and it wouldn't work.
I feel like I gotta play the game with you right now. And show you
I made sure that I had ammo in my inventory, and that it just never worked for me. So
gosh.
I always went. I guess I didn't realize it paused. But if you do need to, like, if it happens to you, if it doesn't reload, you can go into your inventory, reload, and then go back into the game. I tried so many times because it is tedious.
Your question though about the healing stuff, I would pause to do the healing stuff.
Okay.
Which by the way, I liked how the healing stuff worked. Like when you play usually a lot of survival games, it's like, oh, you're bleeding out of all your orifices, and you spray yourself with a health spray, you're 100% health. In this game, it gave you a little bit of health, but how healing worked was always over time, which I thought was a really cool aspect. Like, it kind of sucked during boss battles, but that was the whole purpose of it. It was like, oh, I'm in red health. I use a healing spray, and it's like, now you're like orange health. But it's like once it's over time of like how it heals you, which I thought was cool.
The second boss, you can hide, though, so it makes sense. But so it was like that for like the patch and the spray?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which, like I said, it specifically really stunk with the last boss.
I know we've kind of talked gameplay, but
Don't go back, Keith. Don't go back. We're
going.
past it. No, we're
doing
past it.
I'm doing it. The diagnostics menu.
Oh, jeez.
And it had that whole weird web of like your status.
Yep.
What did that matter? It
That
was
is
just
an
damage
achievement.
or not damage.
It is an achievement.
Is that part to do with the? Oh, never mind. You just this was an accidental segue into achievements. Tell me about it, Andrew.
So yeah, what you're seeing, there's a menu where it like shows a diagnostics of your character, and like you have 16 triangles on your body, and some of them start to turn orange. And there is an achievement, I do believe it's called Theseus. And the premise of it is kind of if you die and reload and a part of you is replaced, once all your parts are replaced, are you still the same person? It's kind of a philosophical question. Like it's like the same debate people have of like a clone. If you clone yourself and the original dies, are you still your same person? And so like that's what the achievement was. And so yeah, there's 16 triangles. And if you die 16 times and replace every one of those triangles, you get that achievement. But as far as gameplay wise goes or anything like that, as far as I saw, there was no significance to it. It was just a way to kind of track how many deaths you've done.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I was talking. I mean, I wasn't necessarily talking about those triangles, but the ones that talked about being like it had like different like emotions. It was like I think it was like a hexagon, like one big thing. I'll look it up.
I don't know.
But there was something. There was some weird thing that was like your status basically, and it didn't seem to do much more than you either took damage or you didn't take damage. So that's why I was confused.
I don't remember there being any sort of gameplay element when it came to damage. Like I don't think there was a way of like, oh, you're actively bleeding, you need to stop the bleeding, or you're gonna bleed out and die.
No, I didn't either. That's why I was confused.
Usually there's an indicator when you're playing, but you have to actually go into like the inventory section to check.
Yeah, I will say one thing where I agree. Where I think this is more of an accessible survival horror that Keith was saying. When you are very low health, it actually flashes on your screen saying like you are critical. So the game kind of gives you a buffer of like, hey, you're right at the end. One more hit will kill you. So try to do something right now. So I kind of agree with you, Keith. I felt like this game was a more of an accessible horror survival game. And like I kind of liked how the health system worked that way.
Which we didn't even get to. This is kind of random, but like the frequencies. Do you know how you enter a room and everyone's acting a fool, and you have to like keep changing your frequencies.
You enter a room and everyone's just acting a fool. You're like, what's going on in this room?
I read online that like if you keep it going, it can respawn enemies. I don't know if that's true, but I read that.
No, I think so.
Because you can shut it off.
I'm surprised you didn't pick this up because you just mentioned about how you're reading, like the different models had like different things. One of the models, it specifically said, can create illusions. And so that's what that enemy was. You had to put your radio frequency to the number that was flashing on the screen, and it would point to what is the real enemy, because the other ones are illusions.
So, when that happened, so I saw like in a video where you have to like shoot the
real one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is when I was playing on normal, by the way, not easy. The first time that I came across this, I didn't shoot anybody. And it just, like, it all went away. So I was very confused. No, like I said, I looked up a walkthrough when it was first happening because I put the frequency on. I was like, and it kept going, and I didn't know what was happening. And then, so the second time that it happened, I just shot at a random enemy, and it still did the same thing. Like, everything stopped. And
so you luckily hit the right one.
Maybe, but the first time it didn't even work. It just kept playing until eventually it stopped. So I was like, I don't know if the second time around, like, I hit the right enemy, or if it was just, like, a glitch like the first time. But I read that, like, if you don't shut it off, it can, like, make enemies, like, come back to life. I don't know if that's true. So I always just shut it off, but isn't it like I said, there were weird things that were happening in the game that were not happening with the walkthrough. Cause I had like the same walkthrough up like on YouTube, and I would just fast forward a lot whenever I needed like, cause you can like scroll and you see an image and I'm like, oh, that's what I need kind of thing.
Did you look it up, Keith?
Yes. I was going to try and put it in the chat. Well, it's on. so the menu, I pulled it up, and it's on the same menu, or it's on the same screen as the frequencies. It's on the far right. There's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's a hexagon. It says fragmented, hypersensitive.
Oh,
over.
I never thought about that. Yeah, there's kind of like I don't know the name of the graph, but it's kind of like your stats.
Yeah, there's like this whole thing. There's like little symbols there.
I forgot about that.
A temperature one, like, are you overheated? Are you like? It looks like there was this whole plan to make it super survivally, and none of that matters for anything that I can tell.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's really. I noticed that when you fight those little frequency monsters, where you have to match their frequency, it goes crazy, and the little dot bounces around inside that hexagon, but it doesn't do anything.
Huh. Weird. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Getting back to achievements, because Andrew and Keith both had achievements that didn't work, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to say, so that Andrew got gamer score 380, and he got 9 out of 13 achievements, but really it should be higher. Keith, 240 with 5 out of 13. You're missing an achievement that's not calculated. I got one more achievement, so I'm assuming we would be tied at 270. But there are 2 achievements that just didn't work.
Yeah, overall, I recommend this game for achievement hunters. Gameplay-wise, it's not very long. You're looking between 9 to 12 hours, like I said, depending on how you play. But as Liz said, the achievements are kind of glitched. The one I'm missing is called The Gift. Yeah, once again, all the achievements are secret. Reveal them. There's no spoilers. All the achievements are all the titles of the achievements are in German, because forgot to mention that Rose Engine, the company that made this game, is from Germany. In which, by the way, also too, Rose Engine consisted of 2 people.
I was really confused. So a lot of the symbols were not German, though. So the writing I thought would look German. Yeah, but then the symbols were Chinese, Asian, something.
I think Japanese.
They were Japanese.
I think it's Japanese.
I feel bad. I don't know the difference, but there was some type of Asian symbol, and then what looked like German or Russian lettering or something. I was very confused with those 2 contrasting things.
Yeah.
Because it's like when you walk into a room and you see like a flyer and it's like has German writing and you can look at what it says in English. That's very interesting. Yeah. So was one of them one nationally, one another?
Their name is Yuri and Barbara is the other developer. 2 developers. Kind of girl.
Oh yeah, because there's different. Yeah, there's definitely German text, because I'm not going to say this right. Achtung.
Achtung, yeah.
It's like danger, I think, right? But either way, so there's that. But yeah, there's different. I don't know. I don't quite know.
That was wild to me.
Yeah, because all the achievements are named in German, like Das End. Achtung, I think, was one.
So what I'm thinking, I mean, the characters are kind of like, when you look at the characters, they're kind of, and you can erase if this is wrong, but wrong to say. So the characters in this game kind of looked anime or anime inspired. So maybe it's a German company that they were inspired by anime. Is that? But so that's what I was thinking when I was playing it, where it was just like, is it like German developers who were inspired by that?
Yep, they're from Hamburg, home of the hamburger. And Hamburger Helper. I don't know, I'm making this up. But yeah, at the very end of the...
really original.
At the end of the credits, it says, with love from Hamburg. But yeah, so they're German developers. But I kind of liked that aesthetic they were going with, of like, it's German. Because, you kind of keep hearing this code over and over again of a lady saying these numbers in German. But then, like you said, Liz, there's a lot of Japanese like calligraphy throughout the game as well. And your characters are even kind of like anime inspired. So I don't know. That's one thing I also really enjoyed about this game. But yeah, forgot to go back originally. So back to the achievements. I recommend this game for achievement hunters, but as me and Keith said, they are glitched. The one Keith missed it's a story one. He should have absolutely gotten it from beating a level. The one I'm missing, I luckily saved right before it. It's called The Gift, and you're supposed to be gifted a gun. And I've done it numerous times. I kept reloading my save, doing the thing over and over again, and it just will not give me this achievement.
And Keith, it was like lose something of no value, I think,
Yeah.
which is it is like essential to the game. You can't just like
Yeah, it's story
bypass
related.
it. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
majority
there's
of
no way around it.
majority of the achievements are story related.
But you would recommend it even though you got 380 out of 1,000 because you finished the game. So
Yeah, I'd recommend it because the achievements are worth a lot. There's not a lot of achievements. I think the lowest gamer score one is worth 50. So if you want easy gamer score, literally boot up the game, die. There you go. There's an achievement.
I don't know. Beating a game and only getting 380 seems kind of sad to me.
I could have done more. The one, if the achievement didn't glitch, I think it's worth 100 or 150. So, which is irritating. I want this Sting achievement because it's worth so much. But it's not a very long game, and like you could beat the game in one run and get all the achievements if you do a walkthrough. You just got to play on the hardest difficulty, which I don't think is that hard, and just you could easily get them.
Oh, so you did the hardest difficulty?
No, I didn't. I did normal.
Oh, okay.
Because
No,
I don't think you get the
can
achievement.
Play it differently, right?
No,
Because there's 4 endings.
but you don't have to get all the endings.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's
you just
why
have to
I think
get one
it's
ending.
crazy
Oh,
that
I
you only got
assumed
380.
all 4 endings had their own achievement.
No, just you
That's
just got to
weird.
beat it once. Yeah, so that's why I would recommend it for achievement hunters. But yeah, let's get our final thoughts here on Signalis. Like I said, for me, I did enjoy this game. I do have my gripes with it. Like I'm with Liz. I wish the backspace wasn't so annoying, but I enjoyed where this game was conveying. I wish the story was slightly more clear at the beginning. At the very end, where I was like, it was giving me some lore. I was kind of going, oh, so that's what's going on a little bit. This game is open up for interpretation. So if you are looking for kind of a psychological horror that makes you think, this will probably be up your alley. I just wish I was fed a little bit more at the beginning. Because like I said, I didn't even know what I was fighting. So I didn't find this game very scary. Because I'm like, I don't know what's going on. There's guys that want to hurt me, so I got to shoot them in the face. But overall, though, as a package, though, I think this game is fun. I loved the puzzles. To me, that was the highlight of this game, was the puzzles. I just didn't like the backspace. Making me go back and forth was just padded gameplay time that just, after a while, I was like, okay, that's what they're doing. They're just making me go back and forth. That's not fun. But once I got to the end, though, I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. So this is kind of a game that kind of makes you warm up to it. But from what I've seen from people who love this game absolutely love this game. And I can see why they love it. We didn't mention, I know Liz normally doesn't look it up, but this game has a 96% positive rating on Steam with almost 6,000 reviews. Like, people who love this game really love this game. And I think what's here is special. I just will say it isn't for everyone. If you are someone who has never experienced kind of this retro style survival horror game, you may not like it if you've never experienced it before. But I thought it was an interesting experience. But for me, I'm going to give it an 80.
You know, it's funny. I've played video games my entire life. I don't think I ever played any of the old Resident Evil games, so I can't actually compare this to those. No, I was a Mario kid growing up. I stuck to my safe havens, I guess. I don't know. But so in a way, I kind of came in with a fresh set of eyes to the genre in the sense, or the gameplay style. But I'm familiar with horror. I'm familiar with survival. I didn't think this did much of either. It was the horror wasn't that scary because it was predictable. The survival wasn't really survival. It was just limited space and limited ammo, but was all very easily avoided by just kind of running past things that you didn't want to deal with. Kind of how I handle everything in life.
Run past them.
Yeah, just
cop. I'll just run past you.
I mean, there couldn't be anything further from the truth. I don't run past anything.
Bills? Let's just run past them.
No, you just ignore those. But so I can see where it can call itself a horror survival. I just didn't think it did enough for me to really feel it myself. But I think that's where it's accessible as a genre for that, and you can play through it really, like you said, outside of really one achievement, no penalty for playing on the easier difficulties. So play the easier difficulty, do it with no shame. Even if you miss the achievements, do it without shame anyways, because it's how you want to play it. I think it's a fine game. It's just it's weird that I can't think of anything I really loved about it, but there's nothing I disliked either. So I think give it a chance, and I think 80 is a fine score. So I'm going to copy Andrew, and I'm going to say 80. Also, you were talking about the people who like this. I'm going to hit send on it now. I was waiting. Apparently, people create weird fan art, and it's not even like
I've actually saw this. You sent this link, and I've seen this link.
It's not it's shareable. It's not even not safe for work. It's just very weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, people who like this game like to create weird things for it. So I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe
cat
I don't.
Memes? Oh yeah, here we go.
I say maybe I just don't, and that's one of those things. It's like and maybe where I'm surprised I don't like it more. It sounds so hipster. I don't like things that I don't understand. Or maybe it's old man yelling at the cloud. It's more like just the other bit. Like people are like, oh, it's so, smart. You just have to understand it. I'm like, that sounds annoying. I do like things that make me think, but if you're going to go onto this weird soapbox about how intelligent something is, then I'm probably out on it for the most part. So it's surprising that I actually do enjoy this, where that's kind of the fun.
I thought you were
going
to hate this game. When I started playing it, I was like, Keith is going to hate this. I'm surprised you gave it a game.
And I didn't love it, but I don't know. I didn't hate it either.
Yeah. I can also imagine I can also picture you, Keith, of your wife being like, Keith, can you take out the trash? And then just seeing you sprint right past her right out the door.
Nope.
Just run past things you don't want to do.
As I will say, as far as the gameplay of this, it was a very easy game to put down. And it was weird because it wasn't even like a rage thing, but there would just be points that I would just die and be like, you know what? I'm just going to end here. I'll come back to this later.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's just a weird point about it.
And not to pause on your review real quick, Liz, but I always forget to add this as a segment. But as far as this game goes for xCloud, I think this game, I probably would recommend playing on xCloud. I did a good amount, but as we've been saying, the game only saves at certain points. You have to go to a room and actually save. There is no auto save. So if you're playing on xCloud in a moment where you don't know if you can just drop the game, this may not be a very good xCloud game because you could lose a lot of progress. But anyway.
Well, same with sometimes we share the same Xbox. That would be very unfortunate if you hopped on, which didn't happen this week. I also want to say that I think it's funny you're talking about taking out the trash. That is when it comes to chores, that is I would love to just take out the trash. That's not
really?
I think it's
you love taking out the trash?
No, what I'm saying is out of all the chores that I have in the house, taking out the trash is so quick and easy. It's something that in books and TV and people are like, oh, I gotta take out the trash. I would much rather do that than do the dishes, I'll tell you what. So for me, but I will say though,
but half the time you can't pick up the trash.
No, I can't. But what's unfortunate is, so Andrew and I, we got this great deal on name brand trash bags, right? And they're not so I usually buy the cheapest because who cares? Why not buy name brand? But we got this great deal. They are all defective. So
that's why we got a great deal.
Yeah, when you pull the actual ties, they break. So you have to do your own makeshift tie. And that's the only reason why I wouldn't want to take out the trash.
Yeah. So this episode is not sponsored by Glad. Fix your things, draw strings.
But it's
Glad.
not even just it's Glad. Suck. It's a fancy Glad. And also I don't obviously with the sale they don't know that it's defective. But I was like,
we definitely just got a bad batch.
Oh yeah, I was like, this is cheaper than store brand. Yeah. Let's do it.
Because literally the brand we had before was Walmart. Why are we talking about trash bags, Liz?
Because you were talking about taking out the trash, and I was like, the only reason why I wouldn't want to take out the trash is because of our defective trash bags, which we got in a bulk box. It's just it's awful. I tell you, I'd never buy that brand again, even though it's just a defective box. But anyways, I didn't give my score.
No,
so I was thinking about going down a bit because I was talking about it. I was like, this is annoying, this is annoying. I'm just going to stay with my original rounded out number, which is 75. Because I feel like I definitely liked it less than you guys. 75, the reason why I gave it 75 and not lower is because everyone's like, oh, I see what they're going for. I don't see what they're going for. If I wanted to play a game from, I immediately think of like the 80s or 90s. Like
Yeah.
I would play that game. It, like for me, it's just like you could make it like retro and still have like better lettering and graphics and sharper. Like, I don't understand it. I don't like it, but I'm not going to default the game for that. So it's like if I was actually like giving a score of like what I think the game, you know. But we've played games with like way worse pixelated art. So I mean, like it's not even that bad. I just like I don't get it. I also definitely had some bugs I didn't realize were bugs, like the whole like not reloading thing. But anyways, looking at Metacritic, there's only stuff for Xbox One, 82 and 7.8, so very different scores than what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna say a quick review, and then we'll get into our fourth and silent co-host. I'm gonna make you guys wait.
Yes.
I want to hear his 0.
So the critic who gave it a 70 said, and also this is in 2022 because at the end it says like day 1 try it. Just so you know, this is like an older review. Signalis is a rather fascinating adventure with gorgeous retro visuals and excellent audio colluding with an exciting story and lore and great story to offer a world absolutely worth exploring. It's therefore also a huge shame that it's let down by repetitive and annoying puzzles that have the player run back and forth in identical corridors, a painfully limited inventory, and an unimpressive combat model. Fans of old school horror games and space sci-fi should still find Signalis an interesting experience, and those subscribed to Game Pass can try it day 1 on the service. Do you guys want to guess what the fourth and silent co-host?
Oh, he definitely gave this a game of 0. Oh, I would bet money he gave it a 0.
You sure? I'm asking.
Yeah.
That's why. Okay.
I could
Keith,
definitely
what do
see
you
him giving
think?
it a 0.
I'm gonna go with a safe and say 1.
It was a trick for me. It's a 0.
Yeah,
it is, in his words, an indie turd.
Yeah, exactly.
But one thing that
He does
I
not like
will
indie games.
want to say though is that he said it never saves, but he also admitted he didn't play long enough to figure it out how to save. So
So he literally
he
did.
barely played.
Yeah, it still gives it a 0. What a jerk.
That's what bothers me. We're just like I said, we have a certain amount of time that we have to
Yeah.
play to give the. I wouldn't. I mean, it would have to be pretty bad for me to give it a 0 and not play. Like I don't even know how long it would take to find a save point. To be honest, pretty early on. So
15 minutes, I'd say it takes to get to a save point.
Yeah, I don't remember, but yeah, because it was so long ago.
You exit the ship, go through the hole, then you get to the facility, and then you can save. Yeah.
Your memory is amazing.
Thank you.
But yeah, I was just thinking that. I was just like, he didn't even play long enough to find a save point.
And that's what
Or maybe he couldn't. He just like saw the TV and didn't think anything of it. But I doubt that very much.
I was like, I understand where people come from, where it's like, when people are like, oh yeah, you got to play like 4 or 5 hours, like you got to play numerous hours of this game, and that's when it finally picks up. Not everyone has that kind of time. I get that. But if you play like 15 minutes of a game and you give it a 0, like you got to give it a little more time than that. Come on, man. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for us for a review here of Signalis. So like I said, I recommend checking it out. It's very unique, and you can never go wrong with it because it's on Game Pass. But yeah. If you want to check out all our stuff, I finally created a link tree.
Good job.
I know. It took me, only freaking like 4 years here. But yeah, we're at linktree/GPGBpod. Has all our Twitter, Facebook, all our jazz on there. So if you want to find our stuff, because then Keith can stop complaining that I have a CVS receipt of an outro.
That is true.
Oh, but I don't have our email. We're at GamePassGrabBag@gmail.com. So send us a recommendation for a game that you like. We'll check it out. Keith.
Oh, crap. I usually zone out for so much longer, and it gives me time to not come up with something to say.
I know, you got to sit there and vape and, like, crack a beer.
I haven't seen any of those things this episode, so you're wrong.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Solid
Liz.
work, Keith.
Thanks for backing me up. Well, I've been Keith, so there's that. Yeah, I got nothing this week.
Good job. All right.
Good.
All right, Keith.
And I'm Liz the Noob, gamertag Commandine, and I'm on Twitter at Liz Noob, NoobBusyW. And I'm also on Instagram. I've been working in the garden. I've been finding some, like, I take pictures of them. I get very excited when I find, like, snails and slugs and, like, cute, like, I found a bird's, like, 2 birds' nests. I still... Not in the ground. Everything is above ground.
Okay.
The snail, not a snail, the slug that I found, it was so cute. But I also, like, I still haven't found the cojones to put my face on my Instagram. It just feels so weird taking a picture of myself. But I've been finding, I will get there, but I also think I have 3 followers on Instagram.
Nice.
So, I mean, those people probably don't want to see my face anyways. But I will get there.
Digging the garden, how much has it made you want to play Grounded again?
I think about that all the time, I tell you. So, like, with the spiders and stuff, which I haven't been finding. So it's weird. So where we live, there are days that are in, like, the mornings are in the 30s, and then every once in a while I'll get to the 80s. So we already have, like, ants and stuff. But there are some areas that, like, the bugs still have it. They're not interested in. They're interested in some areas. So I haven't had to think about that yet. So, like, I was, like, you know, digging up stuff in the yard today, and there were only worms. But if you go to another part of the yard, there's, like, spiders, there's ants, there's I found a cockroach, like, there's all kinds of things. So I'm staying in, like, the safe area so I don't think about it. But once it's, like, fully warm all the time, there'll be all the bugs, and I'll think about it a lot.
All right. There you go. We love you all. We'll see you again next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.